Thank you, Karen, for that intro. And hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. For those of you not familiar with Looker, I'll just do a very quick intro. Looker is Google Cloud's data and analytics and business intelligence platform. Our platform essentially helps companies solve data problems. And our mission is to empower people with the smarter use of data through that platform. We have a number of customers, and many of our customers choose Looker to be at the center of their digital transformation efforts. And part of that transformation involves modernizing the way that we think about business intelligence. And that's precisely what this session is about. In this session, I'm going to walk you through some companies and some examples of companies that are using data in ways that really challenge our conventional definition of BI. And we're going to talk about how your organization can really benefit from this new way of thinking of BI, from this more modern approach. So let's get started. We all experience data every day. This is not a groundbreaking idea, but it is important to acknowledge that a part of this is just the amount of data that's out there. Data is everywhere. There is a stat out there that predicts that by 2025, there will be 175 zettabytes of data in the world. I think at last count, there were about 33 zettabytes today. So I'll put that figure in perspective. If each gigabyte in a zettabyte or a brick, we would have enough bricks to build the Great Wall of China 258 times. It's a mind-boggling figure. And this volume of data is only going to keep growing. So as data leaders, how do you respond to this? Data leaders and data professionals have a responsibility to define or to influence how data is used in an organization. And more importantly, but also very exciting, is that as data professionals and data leaders, you are in a position where you can really lead your company through data. Here's some study results backing that up. So this is a study from Gartner where they surveyed about 3,000 technology leaders across the world to ask them about their investment priorities going into this year. And you see here the top four answers on that list. It was a list of about maybe 15, 20 answers. And it's very interesting to note that all of the top answers have to do with digital transformation. And surprisingly or unsurprisingly, maybe, BI and data analytics is the number one investment priority for companies going through a digital transformation journey. It's bigger than security, it's bigger than infrastructure, it's bigger than artificial intelligence. And it's not just because of the massive volumes of data that are available that we were talking about a moment ago. It's also because the way that we experience data has changed. We experience data every single day. We experience data when we shop, for example. Just think of the last item that you bought on your phone, for example, in the last week. Now that many of us have been working from home, this is probably something that's happening more regularly. Did you compare any similar products that came up in whatever shopping app you were using? Did you read reviews? After you purchased the item, did you track the status of the shipment? We all have data in our pockets, right? Everybody's heard this anecdote about how we carry more computing power in our pockets today than what the Apollo 11 astronauts used to fly to the moon. It's a really powerful idea. And what that means is that we expect all this computing power and all this information with us at all times on our phones, connected devices, and it influences our behavior when we go into, visit a brick and mortar store, or we go in, or we're walking around town and we're trying to choose a restaurant. We expect this information to allow us to make decisions in our pockets, at our fingertips, instantly, all the time. We experience data to get around. Like, I completely depend on Google Maps now. If you use a ride-hailing app, if you're like me, you're also checking the route that the driver is taking. And we even experience data when we don't even want to think about data. When you're just sitting at home and you're watching one of your favorite shows, the entertainment app that you're using understands your viewing habits and then uses certain algorithms to recommend options that are probably going to be things that you're going to like. So what does this have to do with work? Well, the way that we experience data in our daily lives has greatly influenced our expectations of data when we work. That same expectation, that same understanding of data, where we don't even think about it, is something that now also happens in our jobs. We are now a data-driven workforce. But we don't all work with data the same way. And as data leaders and data professionals, it's very important to recognize that you have different people in different jobs, different roles, and we all have different data needs. And broadly speaking, you're going to have two categories of workers. You have the first category of people, and these are people whose job is data. Their job can be defined as data. That's their job description. That's what they do. Think of data analysts and data scientists and data architects, for example. But then you have another category of people who I call the rest of us. And these are people whose job isn't data. Our job function is not defined as data, but we still need data. We still need a lot of data to perform our job. So take the example of a customer success manager, right? Your job is to delight your customers, keep customers happy, but you need data to manage your operations, to look at open tickets, average response times, et cetera. And this is a category of workers who don't live in the tools that BI people typically use. And what this means is that the dashboard is no longer the primary way of consuming data. And this is massive because for the history of business intelligence and the history of the business intelligence industry, we've come to associate the idea of analytics or the idea of BI with a dashboard, with displaying numbers or figures on visualizations and charts on a dashboard. And now that's all changing. Data and insights and analytics are now being integrated into operational workflows where you're using data more like an asset to trigger or activate certain processes and other systems or other applications. And at no point is somebody looking at a particular report or a dashboard. And there's this quote from Gartner that validates that transformation, which says that spending on traditional BI is going to shift dramatically to analytics integrated into business operations and digital solutions. Analytics integrated into business operations. And what does this mean? It means that more than likely, your company is not getting enough value out of your data today. If you think of your data as an asset, more than likely it is an underutilized asset. So let's talk about that with a weird question. What do data and toothpaste have in common? Right? We all know that toothpaste is most commonly used for brushing teeth. That is its primary use case. But turns out that there are other ways to get value from toothpaste. So if you do a quick Google search, you'll find that toothpaste can also be used to polish your car headlights, to remove your nail polish, or even to hang posters on the wall without damaging your drywall. Data is very similar in the sense that there is one primary use case, one very obvious use case for data. And what is it? Well, it's BI, the way that we've come to understand BI, reports and visualizations and dashboards. The primary use case is to display these figures on a chart, on a visualization, and you have an analyst that looks at this data and they consume it, they interpret it, they draw conclusions, and then at some point, presumably, an action happens, right? That's the way that data is primarily used today. But it's not the only way. We're seeing some very innovative companies finding other ways to use data and very valuable use cases that don't really have to do, or at least are not centered around the idea of displaying data on a report or a dashboard. For example, a customer of ours is this global media agency that built this custom workflow experience for their customers to understand ad spend performance. Another customer is a media company and a marketing department. They built an automated bot. And what this bot does is it automatically adjusts bids on ads on dozens of ad platforms. It adjusts the bids of these ads up or down depending on the performance of the ads. We also have another example of a company that uses data to test the security of all their networks and servers over 100,000 times per day. And these are enormously valuable applications for these companies. But what's interesting about them is that at no point in these workflows is somebody looking at a dashboard and making some kind of decision. The way in which companies are using data is really going through a profound change. And just like that Gartner quote that I shared a moment ago, spending is shifting from traditional BI to analytics like this that are now integrated into business operations. So what does this mean? Does this mean that reports and dashboards are going away? Does this mean that BI is dying? The answer is absolutely not. BI remains the primary use case for data, reports and dashboards, and probably will remain for the foreseeable future. But what it means is that our understanding of BI is expanding, that the idea of what companies can do with data is really expanding, and that reports and dashboards will become just one of many ways in which organizations can derive real value from data. Here's a quote from Forrester. It says that insights-driven businesses are going to drive growth by creating differentiating experiences, products, and services. And what I find really interesting about this quote is that at no point do they use the word reporting or dashboards. They talk about experiences, data experiences, and this is where our industry is headed. So let's take a closer look at this idea of data experiences and what it means. And I'm also going to mention a few examples of companies that are delivering different data experiences within their organizations. So the idea of data experiences is all about companies finding ways to fully unlock the potential of their data, to truly use data as a fully leveraged asset. And this is being done by going beyond this conventional understanding of BI. These are companies that are finding ways of infusing data within operational workflows. They are delivering business insights at the point of decision, whether it is inside of a BI tool or outside of it. They are creating new products with data, new services with data. They're monetizing them, so they're creating new value streams. If any of your companies are thinking about how can we get more value from our data, how can we monetize our data, this is something that a lot of companies in your industry are probably thinking about doing, if not already doing so. Let's look at 4 different categories of data experiences that we've identified while working with Looker customers and understanding the ways in which they're using data. We've really identified these 4 different categories, and I'm going to cover all of them in detail. But they are modern BI and analytics, integrated insights, data-driven workflows, and custom applications. So the first one is modern BI and analytics, and this is the one that we're all already very familiar with. This is the type of experience that is characterized as analytical, as very data-centric, right? And the key thought here is I want to better understand my business. I'm going to explore and analyze data to do this. This is an experience that's all about serving real-time insights in reports and dashboards that are relevant to the consumer, but that act as starting points for more in-depth ad hoc analysis. And it's about going to this sort of think of the BI tool as a specific data space where you are going with a very specific purpose of finding accurate and interactive reports on which to interact with and derive insights. So a couple of our customers that are examples of this experience, we have an HR software company they serve reports and dashboards powered by Looker in their product, and it allows their customers to better understand staffing needs and staffing trends. Another customer is a mobile payment company out of Europe that has dashboards for every single portion of their business. So for their C-level executives, they have a company-wide KPIs, or for their customer success team, for their support team, they have customer scorecards. They are even tracking lunch reimbursements, for example. So it's going into this data space, this tool to analyze data, to explore data. It's very data centric. The next category is integrated insights. And this type of experience is all about using data to enrich applications where you're already working with. It's about adding context to that application. So it's contextual, it's informative, it's all about remaining where you work. And the key idea here is that without having to change the application that you're in, without having to change tabs or even thinking about it, the data gives you more context in that tool that you're already working in, right? So think of ways where you can augment the tools and the products that you're using every day with information, with more context where you already are. And what that does is it enhances the experience of those tools and ultimately making you more effective. So a few examples here. We have an online payment processing company that is embedding customer usage data within Salesforce. And this gives their sales representatives more context on calls with customers, right? So think that you're a sales rep and you're on Salesforce, and within the same Salesforce window, you have data that's coming from Looker, right? So it's not typical BI because you're not really going to this report to analyze it. You're still in your Salesforce window, but now you have added context that makes that conversation or interaction a lot more valuable. We have another customer that develops a chat app, and the sales reps at this company have all of the metrics that their customers most care about within, and they can automatically pre-populate a slide deck, a presentation with all of these metrics to present to their customers, right? Things about usage and things like that. Even Looker, our own support team, we use integrated insights within our chat tool. So when you have if you're speaking to a Looker DCL agent, we call them the Department of Customer Love. They're in their console and they're chatting with a customer. But integrated within the console, there is a window of additional information that comes from Looker, that's powered by Looker, that gives them more context on the customer that they're chatting with through this widget. So again, just making that information a lot richer. The third type of data experience is really interesting. It's called data-driven workflows. And data-driven workflows is really all about activating data. It's operational, it's task-driven, and it's all really about powering a process or a workflow by incorporating fresh and accurate data into this workflow, where you make the process more efficient and less manual, even sometimes completely automated. So you're making processes faster, more streamlined. You're introducing automation. You're reducing the reliance on human intervention, right? A couple of examples here. There's a CRM company that has a customer health tracker, and it notifies their customer success managers when a customer's health score falls below a certain threshold. What this does is it automatically triggers a pre-populated email within their engagement platform. So all they need to do is hit go, and they start re-engaging with that customer, right? It's data that's triggering a process. It's not about showing the data on some kind of chart or graph. I mentioned the second example earlier. It's a gaming company that built an advertising bid bot. And it optimizes the bid process in real time across a dozen different media platforms in order to increase the efficiency of the digital ads. And the last category is custom applications. This is a type of data experience that is all about building products that use data in ways that allow people to accomplish their goals. So, just think of most of the tools that we use online today. They're all custom apps, and they're all powered by data. So really, they all happen to be data apps. We don't think of them as data apps, but they are, right? So think of we have a top retailer as our customer, and they built a merchandising and supply chain management application that maintains or that optimizes their inventory levels and their pricing. So this application is going out there and seeing at competitor prices. It's analyzing inventory levels, and it's automatically making the decisions to keep those inventory levels at the right point. Another one of our customers, it's a top US-based broadcaster. They built this custom application that gives their sales reps the ability to make sure that the ads that they're selling are sold at the most optimal price. It considers things like the time slot of that ad, the market in which it's being displayed, and all of this is just data and insights powered by this custom application. So I'm going to summarize the 4 different categories of data experiences that I covered, but really just to bring back some fundamental ideas that I shared. The first one is that the way that we experience data and our expectations of it have really changed. That is heavily influenced by the type of worker that you are or that you're going to be serving. And this is something that you need to consider. If you truly want to make your organization data-driven, it's important that you understand that not everybody lives in a BI tool. And you have to reach them with data where they work and the tools and the applications that they work. This means keeping in mind that reports and dashboards are really just the beginning of your data and analytics journey, and that the most successful companies with data are going to figure out how to use data to deliver really meaningful and relevant experiences and products that either they can deploy internally or they can bring to market and monetize. And lastly, think of the needs of your business. Think of the use cases and try to find opportunities to move that specific use case or department or the entire business forward using any combination of these data experiences that we reviewed. If all you're doing today with your data is displaying on a report or a dashboard, you are severely underutilizing it. But that actually puts you in a really exciting position where you have an enormous opportunity to help your company benefit from data in a way that it hasn't before. And with that, I really want to thank you for your time, and thanks again for being invited to speak. And I think we have a little bit of time for questions. Great question. So the most important thing here is to identify use cases. Identify use cases, and then try to get executive sponsorship and commitment. I spent a few years running a professional services practice, doing a number of customer implementations. And the most successful ones were the ones where we started with a very well-scoped, well-defined use case that we needed to solve, and where there was executive commitment beyond IT. Where we had a particular business unit that was sponsoring this a particular project. Those tended to be the projects that went off more smoothly, and that we were able to deliver on time. So that's why I always recommend to any company that's just getting started in their journey of going beyond traditional BI is identify those use cases, aligning them with those data experiences that I just described. Where can you take some of the data that you're using today and embed it into some kind of portal for your customers or your partners or your suppliers? Maybe there's a way to monetize it, right? Or maybe there's a way to enhance the value of an application that you're already offering them with this type of data. Are there any particular workflows in your organization that you think could be automated based on data hitting a particular threshold, right? It doesn't have to be anything particularly complicated where you're using machine learning algorithms, although if you have that capability, absolutely. But it can certainly be conditions like, hitting a certain threshold, do this. If customer health score falls below a certain number, trigger an email to re-engage, those types of things. So identify those use cases and make sure that you have that commitment, that leadership commitment. I think the most important thing for companies that are thinking about monetizing data is that their data teams need to shift their way of thinking. They need to change the way they see themselves from a data team to a product team. In many ways, monetizing data can involve bringing a product to market, right? So you are thinking not just of reporting requirements, but you're also thinking of pricing and packaging and different tiers you're going to be offering, right? It can be enormously valuable, and there's the opportunity to create a new value stream. So absolutely recommend that this is something that companies should be thinking about. If you have data that could, or insights that you're producing that would be valuable to your customers or to your partners, absolutely something that I recommend that you look into. And the Looker team can support you. So we, in this particular area, don't just provide the technology, but we can also provide expertise in terms of how to bring a data product or a data application to market. Yes, great question. So the difference is subtle, but it has to do with the purpose and where the data is served. In the modern BI experience, which is the first one that I described, the data is served inside the BI tool, and you are going to the BI tool with a very specific purpose of analyzing, exploring the data, and deriving some insight from it. It's a very analytical experience. Integrated insights, on the other hand, has more to do with context. The data isn't served within the BI tool. The data is served as part of another application that you're using, a CRM system, a chat application, something like that. And the purpose is not the insight itself. You're not going to analyze it or explore it or drill or things like that. The purpose is to add context to the activity that you're doing, to give you more context about the customer that you're talking to, or the particular sales opportunity that you're reviewing. That's the purpose. It's really to enrich the value of the other application that you're using. That would be the difference between BI and integrated insights. I think that you don't have to think about it in just in that those very binary terms. There's really different varying degrees in the middle. So, for example, you have companies where they already have a pretty good data culture within the organization and within the business. They have people that are fairly data savvy, very comfortable working with data, and you can deploy a truly self-serve model where IT essentially becomes a facilitator. They provide the tools, they maintain the tools, they provide a little bit of support, but the analytics responsibility, creating the insights, deploying that's all now is owned by the business, right? Of course, there's the other extreme, which many companies have, which is everything is centralized in IT, and the business depends on the IT organization to get what they want. But you also have these sort of hub and spoke models where you find, and that's more in between, where you find like a data analyst for each business unit. And this data analyst acts as a liaison between the business users and between IT. And these are people that tend to be very data savvy, that maybe spend all their time in Excel and are very proficient with Excel. Depending on the technology that you're using, depending on the tool, there are varying degrees of SQL requirements that they need. But this person sort of serves as that link, and they shift the burden from IT to this sort of liaison, and they're the ones that are creating reports and dashboards and supporting the business users if you feel that you're not in a situation where your business users are ready to be completely self-sufficient. So there are really varying degrees in between that you can take advantage of.